House. He's looking very much forward to that. Two leaders have already gotten to know each other quite well during in-depth discussions over the last year, Cambodia at the East Asia Summit, and in Tokyo for their bilateral meeting in the Quad Summit in May of 2022, as well as through their work together at the G7. Since taking office, President Biden has invested in our alliances to better equip us to collectively take on the 21st century challenges we face, whether that's the DPRK's pursuit of weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile and their ballistic missile program, China's assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region and globally, or of course Russia's unprovoked war in Ukraine. Now, on each of these challenges and on many more, Japan has proven a steadfast ally, ready to step up and do its part to advance our shared national security interests and values. Now, I'm just going to set a little bit of the backdrop here for this particular visit. Last month, Prime Minister Kishida released Japan's new national security strategy and committed to boosting Japan's defense spending to 2% of their GDP. Many more. That includes investments in new defense capabilities, and that's a historic commitment by Japan. Prime Minister Kishida will arrive in Washington after a set of extensive discussions with European partners from Italy to the UK to France, of course, to Canada. And he and President Biden are going to have the opportunity to debrief on those discussions as well. And then, of course, yesterday, you saw the two foreign ministers and the two defense ministers of our countries get together and announce some significant new improvements to the alliance. Upgrades, in fact, to U.S. force posture in Japan, which now include the stationing of a Marine Littoral Regiment in Okinawa, as well as advanced capabilities from intelligence collection analysis to anti-ship capabilities. But we modernize the alliance by announcing that attacks to, from, and within space could lead to the invocation of Article 5 of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. Expanding bilateral exercises between our two countries and training, which includes in Japan's Southwest Islands. And, of course, deepening cooperation in the region to include trilateral training and exercises with Australia and increasing cooperation with the Republic of Korea on ballistic missile defense, anti-submarine warfare, and maritime security. All these moves are not only going to strengthen our combined ability to defend Japan, but also will allow the United States and Japan together to provide for peace and security in the Indo-Pacific region and bolster deterrence in the region and globally. Now, I do think that tomorrow will also give President Biden an opportunity to discuss with Prime Minister Kishida progress that we're going to be able to make together in this coming year on a range of national security and economic issues. Japan, I think you know, holds the G7 presidency. They've just taken a seat on the UN Security Council. And while we're going to be hosting the APEC this year, as well as seeking to make swift progress on the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, there's a lot of overlap there, and we're looking forward to that. We'll discuss how we're going to align these agendas going forward. So tomorrow's program, we expect is going to be a full one. But from our perspective, the message is absolutely clear. Japan is stepping up how we're going to align these agendas, and doing so in lockstep with the United States. Our investment in our alliances is paying huge dividends, and we look forward to celebrating that tomorrow. Speaking of alliances and partners.
What's up, hooligans? Hit that like button. Let's boost this live. More likes, more hooligans.
Mark Rutte of the Netherlands to the White House on Tuesday the 17th to further deepen the historic ties between our two nations. As strong NATO allies and global partners, these two leaders are going to reaffirm our shared efforts to strengthen transatlantic security and economic prosperity. They'll discuss our steadfast support of Ukraine, and the Netherlands has been a very key supporter of security assistance in Ukraine. In fact, they've already provided $1 billion of that and are committing more, almost $3 billion committed, and committing almost $1 billion more going forward. They're going to be able to discuss all that cooperation going forward on critical technologies and a shared vision for a swift end to this war in Ukraine. They also plan to talk about a range of issues that are essential to strengthening democracy, whether that's respect for human rights, rules-based international order around the world, and including as co-hosts of the upcoming second Summit for Democracy. So a big week next week, too, with a very key ally and partner. We're looking forward to that.
John, I understand that the leaders will be focused on deterring the threat from China as well as other adversaries, including Russia, nuclear-powered adversaries, North Korea, Russia, China. But what would the leaders be thinking about in terms of this latest reaction, this latest announcement from South Korea, saying that they're open to acquiring nuclear weapons? Will President Biden and Prime Minister Kishida be focused on this? And does the administration believe that a nuclear South Korea contradicts U.S. policy of denuclearization in the entire peninsula?
The United States remains committed, President Biden remains committed to the complete denuclearization of the peninsula. And that hasn't changed. The Republic of Korea has made clear that they are not seeking nuclear weapons. But what we are going to seek jointly together with them are improvements in extended deterrence capabilities. So we're going to move forward on that.
Okay, and while we have you here, Ukraine has confirmed that they will be receiving tanks from the UK as well as Poland. And during President Zelensky's visit, I think President Biden made it clear that the reason that the U.S. is not providing all the weapons that Ukraine is asking, including these kinds of, tanks, is to ensure that the U.S. is avoiding an escalation to the war and ensuring NATO unity. Does the president believe that UK and Poland's decision to provide tanks to Ukraine will work against those goals?
The president fully supports those decisions, and those are sovereign decisions that those nations make about this kind of security assistance they provide. That's been the case throughout this entire length of the war. We respect that sovereignty, and we certainly are grateful for all the additional security assistance that nations are providing. I talked about the Netherlands. They've provided air defense capabilities as well as howitzers. So we're grateful for that. But these are decisions that they have to make. The president believes, and these announcements, I think, reinforce this belief that there is terrific solidarity by the international community behind Ukraine and finding ways to support Ukraine. Just next week, Secretary of Defense will be hosting yet another contact group meeting over in Europe to contribute or find ways to contribute more security assistance from more partners. Those have been very, very successful. So the president believes that that all these decisions are actually mutually reinforcing of a larger issue here, and that is solid international community support behind Ukraine.
And just to recap on the visit tomorrow, if there's going to be any more announcement outside of the defense aspects of this visit?
I'm not going to get ahead of the meeting that hasn't happened yet. I'll let the president summarize it. We'll have a readout afterwards.
Cross it too.
Non-Japan questions.
His tie looks weird.
An organization called Hostage Aid Worldwide has sent a letter to the president asking for a meeting with him regarding the hostages that have been held, who are dual national, who've been held all over the world, but particularly in Iran. Until now, they have not got an answer. Do you know why the White House is not giving them the attention that have been given to other hostages?
We take each case seriously, and we take each case individually. And just to be clear, dual national citizenship has nothing to do with it. If you have a blue passport, if you're an American citizen, whether you're a citizen of another nation or not, doesn't matter. That means you're going to be treated the same. All Americans are treated the same, regardless of whether they have citizenship in another nation. Paul Whelan's a great example of that. So we work each case individually, we work each case seriously, and we try to keep the families as informed as possible. I won't speak to specific meetings that have or have not occurred. When we get requests for meetings, we take those seriously too, and do the best we can to accommodate it. And certainly, we want to make sure that that in our communications with family members, that we are not doing or saying anything that actually makes it harder.
If you're on Odyssey, refresh the page to be where you're supposed to be.
Release mechanism for them, and you have to be mindful of that when you're in the public talking about these cases. That you got to be careful that you're not putting anything out there in the public space that could make it harder. So each one is reviewed individually and sincerely. And if a meeting can be done and should be done, then then we certainly will work to accommodate that.
Follow up with this letter?
I'm sorry?
Would you follow up with the letter that the...
We're familiar with the letter. I don't have a response to the letter for you. I wouldn't do that from the podium. We'll certainly respond appropriately.
Is Ridge Alconis on the agenda for tomorrow, John?
I won't get ahead of the president's discussion with Prime Minister Kashida James, where certainly the President is aware of the Lieutenant's circumstances in Japan, as is leadership across the military and the Defense Department. But I'm not going to, I won't preview or get ahead of the President's specific agenda.
Thank you so much. Can you give us your reaction, the President's reaction to reports that Russia is building up its forces in the east? What's the significance of that, and where do things stand in terms of any potential?
Why is that guy sniffing his pad of paper so hard?
Sit down at the table. And
You mean the
negotiate?
east of inside Ukraine?
Yes.
Inside Ukraine.
Yes. And I have one more follow-up.
We've obviously been watching very closely military operations, particularly in the east of Ukraine, the Donbass area. And as I've said, even from here in the briefing room, the violence, the fighting in areas around Bakhmut and now this town called Soledar has been significant and severe, and the fighting has been sharp between both sides. We've talked about in Bakhmut specifically, this is largely private military contractors. It's Mr. Prigozhin largely and the Wagner group that have been involved in much of the ground fighting there. But it has been vicious, and that's why going into the winter, knowing that the fighting isn't slowing down there, that we have been so focused on providing additional security assistance to Ukraine. Just last week, Ukraine announced for you, nearly $3 billion worth of systems, and there will be more coming, Kristen. I can't speak to Russian intent here or specific unit movements or what their goals are. I wouldn't presume to speak for the Russian Defense Ministry. I would just tell you that as they continue
What's up, cheeky chaps?
to throw bodies at the fighting in Bakhmut, because they have lost an extraordinary amount of largely convicts in this fighting. As they continue to do that, they need to know and understand that the United States, as well as our allies and partners, are going to continue to make sure that Ukraine can defend itself in that area and do so effectively. And I mean, I don't mean to belabor this, but look at the area, right? This is the Donbass area. We've talked about this. It's a lot like Kansas. It's farmland. It's open ground. And so we want to make sure that we are providing the kinds of capabilities to Ukraine to be able to succeed in that environment. That's why Bradley fighting vehicles were part of the package that Korean announced. That's why the Pentagon will very soon be, DOD and our allies will be starting some combined arms maneuver training outside of Ukraine for up to battalion level units of the Ukrainian armed forces to help them in this fight.
Can I just try one more? We're going to direct 99% of our questions about the classified documents to
It would be okay with me if it was
But
100%.
I do have one for you. Has there been an assessment about any potential national security risk of having these classified documents in the President's private think tank here in Washington and his home in Delaware?
That would be a question for the Justice Department, because they're conducting a review now. You saw that they've announced a special counsel. That issue would be for them to speak to.
Can you speak broadly to the national security concerns about having classified documents in private spaces?
The President has spoken to how seriously he takes the handling of classified documents, and he, as somebody who's aware of the process myself, did exactly the right thing, which is to have them immediately turned over. And that's where this appropriately lies. And again, the Justice Department would be the place to go to answer your question.
So I have one question on Japan, then maybe one on Ukraine. On Japan, are they going to be discussing the semiconductor exports to China and efforts to restrict those exports? Is that going to be a topic? And do you see this as very important to have a country like Japan join those efforts to have some sort of chips control, if not a ban, but to have efforts in that area to control?
Again, I want to be careful not to get ahead of President Biden. I think, as I alluded to, it's going to be a very full and robust agenda. But I think it's safe to say that when it comes to issues he discusses routinely with his counterparts bilaterally and in multilateral settings, supply chains, resilient supply chains to include with respect to high technology is always a part of the discussion. But I won't, again, get ahead of what they're going to say.
And on Ukraine, I know you've said many times you don't want to talk about the intent of the Russians, but what do you make?
It's not that I don't want to. I can't. I mean,
make of the new assignment, if you could call it, of Valery Gerasimov, and what does that say maybe about the Russian strategy as he's been named the new man in charge of the war effort.
Yeah, they've gone through quite a few leadership changes, haven't they, now in 10.5 months? Again, I think Karine said this very well yesterday.
It's like he woke up and was like, how can I look even more sleazy? And his boyfriend handed him this tie, and he was like, got it.
Almost from very early on, in an effort to overcome the sorts of difficulties they've had in this war, difficulties which remain, whether that's logistics and sustainment, ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, the ability to gather information, to communicate, command and control between units, certainly unit morale and cohesion, and without a doubt, I mean, just look at what's been going on in the last couple of weeks, battlefield performance. So interesting that they have now gone back to Gerasimov, who was in charge at the very beginning, who is essentially the chief of their army staff, not an operational commander. It's an interesting selection, I think,
What's up, Felony Liquor? Thanks for being here.
Shows the degree to which the Russians continue to struggle to get it right.
Make sure you guys are racking those likes up. Almost 150 people in the chat forgot to hit the like button. Boost the live, more likes, more hooligans.
Turkey, how confident are you that these two countries can resolve these tensions, and how confident are you that Sweden would be able to join NATO soon? And I would have a follow-up.
We firmly support their ascension, I think.
The redhead dude's gonna be right here on the edge of the screen. Showed up without a compliance cloth today, and now you guys are gonna see his face is built like no other. He looks like one of the aliens on Men in Black.
In terms of the discussions that they're having, you saw yesterday Swedish officials said publicly that they believe that these discussions are actually on a positive track, and we certainly hope that's the case.
On the classified documents, have there been, any other countries in touch with the administration expressing some kind of concerns about how secure classified documents are and how, confidential information about those countries could have circulated?
I'm not aware of any such discussions.
Old man Walter just left those documents somewhere. That's how it gets circulated.
The family and supporters of Russian dissident Alexei Navalny are increasingly concerned about it.
What's up, Independent?
Doctors are openly putting their name to a letter.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do to let the Kremlin know that?
We share the concerns and continue to believe that he should be immediately released, obviously. And short of that, to insist.
His body language says he's really nervous right now.
And share those concerns.
Under a lot of pressure.
We'll continue to make plain.
What's up, Rust?
Authorities.
Is the United
Sorry.
Is the United States concerned that Soledar has fallen to the Russians or could be falling to the Russians?
Can't confirm the reports that it's fallen. I mean, I've seen the Russian proclamations about this. The Ukrainians tell a different story. We're not on the ground, so we're not in a position to confirm it. It's a small village in the Donbass. We believe that the Russian interest in it is sort of twofold. One, because they see it's securing it as key to their ability to hold and secure it.
What's up, Corley?
There's also salt mines.
Days End, you think he's got a code brown? I don't know. He's got some fire in his feet. He's over there tiptoeing.
In that area.
I think great question. I think, look, we got to take a little.
He's kind of doing the pee-pee dance.
We don't know how it's going to go, so I'm not going to predict failure or success here. But even if both Bakhmut and Soledar fall to the Russians, it's not going.
The real winner is the guy that got to cash the check.
It's not going to have a strategic impact on the war itself, and it certainly isn't going to stop the Ukrainians or slow them down in terms of their efforts to regain their territory. And I would remind, I know we're all focused on those two towns right now, but just, again, take a couple of steps back, and if you look at what's been happening over the last 10.5 months, particularly in the Donbass, towns and villages have swapped hands quite frequently. So my last comment would be, don't count the Ukrainians out.
Thank you. I would like to follow up.
Why does he do all that weird stuff with his head?
Ukraine. Poland says that it will deliver the tanks only as a part of a larger international.
This guy right there. He's normally got a compliance cloth on. Now his face just looks pushed in.
President Biden is considering joining this coalition. by sending U.S. Abrams tanks, and if he's encouraging other countries, including Germany, to do the same.
I won't get ahead of decisions on security assistance that haven't been made yet. We have been, I think, very effective at providing security assistance that evolves with the way the war's evolved. And now 2 weeks ago we were talking about Patriots and air defense, and today we're talking about armored vehicles and tanks. So I won't get ahead of the president decisions he's going to make. As I said to Patsy, we're grateful for the support that other nations are providing. They each do it in their own way, in a size, scale, and scope, and a pace that they're comfortable with. These are sovereign decisions, and we respect that. President Zelensky has said he's interested in tanks, and now you have some countries that are showing a willingness to provide tanks. That's all to the good. The United States will continue to provide our security assistance in the same way we have for the last 10.5 months, working in lockstep with the Ukrainians and making sure that we're meeting their needs as best we can. And if we can't, that we're working with allies and partners to do the same. And again, you asked about this coalition or alliance. Again, we believe that there has been an incredible framework established already internationally to provide assistance, security assistance specifically to Ukraine, and that's through this Ukraine Defense Contact Group. There's another meeting next week. We're very excited about that and looking forward to it.
May I follow up? Because the president says that the war is in a critical point. If the war is at a critical point, why wait? It takes time to train Ukrainians to operate those tanks.
Nobody's
Why are
waiting.
you waiting?
Nobody's waiting. I mean, almost every 2 weeks, like clockwork, we're getting up here and talking to you about billions of dollars of more assistance that are going to Ukraine. The United States is the leader of the world. I mean, we've almost $25 billion since the start of this war. No other nation comes close to providing the kind of security assistance that we have. It's not about waiting. It's about working in lockstep with Ukrainians, making sure that we understand their needs and capabilities, and delivering those capabilities the best way that we can. And when I say we...
So how's that southern border going?
And sometimes those assets are not going to come from the United States.
Not there, here.
From other nations. And
Grab some more coffee. Just give me a second. You guys need to rack those likes up. What's going on today?
it's a capability that they're more comfortable using and won't need quite as much training and operation and maintenance on it. And there's lots of reasons lots of things that go into these decisions. Yeah.
All right, Justin, you have the last question.
Oh, I was, in fact, going to ask, not that we don't always appreciate your appearance in the briefing room, but if we could maybe pivot to...
I was trying to give you the last question.
It's fine. It's fine with me. I will depart. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Justin. Jeez.
Justin.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Justin did not hold back at all. And I think you did that on the plane last week, too. I remember. I'm keeping track.
All right.
I'm keeping track. All right, Chris, it's yours.
So a few questions about the classified documents. First off, is the president willing to be interviewed by federal investigators about his handling of classified documents?
So first, let me just say, I'm just not going to get into hypotheticals. This is something for the Department of...
Not a hypothetical question. There's an investigation ongoing. Will the
And-
president
but
speak to that?
it's in ongoing review, right? You're asking me about something in the future, and I am telling you that I'm not going to get ahead of what the department.
She's got that little house on the prairie t-shirt on.
What you heard from the president today, it is important for the American people to know this, is that the president has said he takes classified documents and information very seriously. This is something, as you all know, that he will not shy away from saying, and has continued to say this week. And again, he was surprised that these records have been found. He does not know what's in them, and his team, once they identified that these documents were there, they immediately reached out to the archives, to the Department of Justice, and did the right thing by turning that over. And they have been cooperating very closely with the Department of Justice. You actually heard AG, Attorney General Garland, say today that they heard from his team really shortly after the discovery. And so, I just want to make sure that this is understood, that he takes this very seriously.
So speaking of him taking that seriously, this is the kind of thing that can cause government employees to lose a security clearance. This is a serious matter, as the White House has said. Was the president sloppy in his handling of classified material if there are multiple locations where classified documents are being found?
Look, I said it in the statement. It's in the statement from his lawyer, Richard Sauber, and at the end, he said, we are confident that a thorough review will show that these documents were inadvertently misplaced, and the president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovery of this mistake. I'm going to leave it there. That's what his lawyer said. But again, this is something that the president takes very seriously, and we have been coordinating. They have been coordinating, his lawyers have been coordinating very closely with the Department of Justice.
The last thing is, the initial statement from the White House came out on Monday. The president addressed this on Tuesday in Mexico City. All the conversation was about the documents in the office. However, according to the Attorney General, documents were found on December 20th in his garage in Wilmington. Why was that not immediately addressed? Is the White House being transparent about that if that was already known and not discussed up front?
So you said transparent. I want to say that we have been transparent here. That is why the minute that his lawyers found those documents, they reported it. They reached out to the archives and the Department of Justice, and they did that voluntarily. And they were not compelled to do it. They did it voluntarily. Now, I want to step back a little bit as you're asking me about the timeline. Look, the lawyer said...
Oh, they did what they were supposed to do voluntarily? Pats on the back? Didn't they find out that the MAGA king did what he was supposed to do voluntarily, but then you guys raided him and put it all over the news like he was a bad person, we'll say that.
Released a statement disclosing the facts from that search, as you all know, this morning. This is all part of the Justice Department process, and you heard the Attorney General speak to this today. So we are being...
She said the Attorney General...
fully cooperative with the Department of Justice and providing details as appropriate as part of that process.
So why did you fully describe the documents when we were firstly asked this week?
Because, and I actually answered that question. I said because there was a process happening that was currently ongoing, and I'll refer you back to my comments that I made just yesterday. Go ahead, Mary.
Just a couple of things I want to clarify, just to make sure that our reporting is as accurate as possible. You know, the special counsel's, the White House counsel's statement this morning said that documents were found in the president's Wilmington residence garage and in an adjacent room. But when the president mentioned this himself in person earlier, he said they were found in storage areas and in his personal library. So can you just clear this up? Which room, where were the documents actually found in his residence?
Okay, so let me just step back because I know all of you will have a lot of questions. So I'll lay this out very clearly and precisely. We want to make sure no one is confused. As you just said, Mary, as soon as the president's lawyers found these documents, they immediately contacted archives and Department of Justice, as I've said many times already, to ensure that they were handled properly. The president has said this. We are being fully cooperative with the Department of Justice throughout this process as part of the president's lawyers look through the places where documents could have been stored, and the counsel's office released, as you said, a statement explaining that. So I would refer you back to the statement. I don't have anything more to say, but that search was completed last night, and now this is in the hands of the Justice Department.
I bet it was.
Prudent here, as I said yesterday, as you all have reported over and over again.
Happened last night.
Any questions about
What's up, St. Louis?
review going on, and I would refer to Department of Justice or my colleagues in the counsel's office. But again, I'm just not going to go beyond what the president said. We just laid out the process that was taken.
It sounds like you...
Thank you so much, Patty Wilson, for continuing the membership program. You're officially a hooligan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Mary, I completely understand. I just want to be very careful because there is an ongoing investigation. I want to be prudent here and make sure.
They did not feel this way when it was the MAGA king under the knife.
I'm not going to go beyond what the president said.
And one other point of clarification. The president said Tuesday he was surprised to learn about the documents at the Penn Biden Center, that he didn't know what was in these documents. He didn't sort of repeat that this morning about the documents found at his residence. So was he also surprised to learn that they were classified documents at his residence, and does he know any information about what's in them?
He was surprised that the documents were there, and that is also in line with what we shared this morning. And again, he takes this very seriously when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents. And again, it still stays the same. He was surprised that the records were found. He does not know what's in them. That has not changed. And again, his team, when they identified that they were there, they immediately reached out to the archives, reached out to DOJ, just as they did last night, and as we have pretty much laid out previously.
Thank you so much, Snooks, for gifting 10 memberships over on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Former president handled documents that were taken from the White House. When the FBI, Garland said when the FBI went to the location being the president's residence and secured these documents, did the FBI just retrieve documents or was there a search of the residence?
Again, I'm just not going to go into the particulars or the specifics of what the Department of Justice
See, that's what I asked just a little while ago on the last live.
and what is already out there. We laid out a statement pretty extensively on Monday. We've been laid out a statement this morning on what was found last night. I'm just not going to go beyond. I would refer you to the Department of Justice to give you the specifics on that. As you know, there's an ongoing process. There's a review currently occurring. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Okay.
Great. Can you shed any light on how the documents got to these places and why?
Again, there's an ongoing process. It's being reviewed. Don't have more to share.
Someone said that she's got a blouse on, but I think she has a whole Little House on the Prairie dress on. I think it's the whole thing, everything but the bonnet.
I'm not going to get into the decisions that was made by the Attorney General. I will say this, and you've heard me say this many times before. This is a president that believes in the independence of the Justice Department. This is something that he has been saying since the campaign, and you've heard me say this over and over in restoring that independence. So look, we have been very, very careful here not to appear from the White House to influence their decision making on any number of issues. As you've heard me say over and over again, I've said this many times. I'm sure someone has counted the amount of times that I've said that the Department of Justice is independent and we respect their independence. I am certainly not going to comment on or give my opinion.
They're going to try and get out of this by ending the live.
Attorney General laid out today.
What broadly does the White House make of comparisons between President Biden's handling of documents and former President Trump's handling?
I'm not going to get into politics from here. What I can say is what I've laid out, which is the president takes this very seriously.
If you guys are grabbing those memberships that Snooks just gifted, make sure you thank her. It's not free. I appreciate you, Snooks.
He does not know what's in them. And what he did and what his team did is the minute that they realized that the documents were there, they reached out to the archives, they reached out to the Department of Justice. And I'll just leave it there, and I'll leave you all to pontificate and do your punditry. I will not do that from here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Corinne. In the statement from the special counsel about the second set of documents, it says the lawyers have completed the ongoing review by the president's legal team last night. Does that mean there are no other locations where documents could be stored? There's no other search underway at this moment in time for documents from the Vice President's time?
So as I'm just going to, again, that statement pretty much lays it out, that
She's getting flustered.
as part of the lawyers, they look through the places where documents could have been.
What's up, Darkly?
Release a statement on that. Now it is in the hands of the special counsel.
So we should assume that it has been completed.
You should assume.
It's Johnny Bravo.
I just want to square something that Chris was asking about. The review was underway when you guys gave a detailed statement about the first set of documents. The review was underway when the president spoke about the first set of documents. You're now saying that you didn't talk about the second set of documents, discovered almost a month prior, because a review was underway. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
the
I
review
think
was underway the entire time. The only difference was that reporters had information on the first set of documents, and therefore you chose to exclude the second set of documents until reporters got information on the second set of documents.
Well, let me unconfuse you for a second, Phil. Look, we are trying to do this by the book, and I said yesterday this was under review by the Department of Justice, and the process is as such. When the president's lawyers realized that the document,
Garrett, they want her to walk out. I think they might push her today.
they reached out to the Department of Justice, rightfully so, may I add. That is what you're supposed to do as lawyers. That's what they did, and they have fully been cooperating with.
Thank you so much, DK Records, for continuing the membership program for 2 months. You're officially a hooligan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Discovered, that we did outreach. The president's lawyers did outreach to the Department of Justice and archivists.
Nobody's questioning that. That's not what we're asking about. We're asking about.
I'm telling you that there's a process. I just laid out what the process is, and I'm
about
telling
the
you that
public
we
process
were
of-
trying to do this by the book and
Call her out.
ongoing process. I'm not going to get beyond that, but that is how this works.
How can you say this was transparent when you've
Kareem.
sat on this information for more than 2 months?
Thank you, Kareem.
Thank you.
Put that little 2 cents in there.
Seeking information, and I appreciate and understand why the press office can only say so much. So help us understand this. Who are the president's personal counsel that the Attorney General referred to today?
I was asked that question earlier. Let me get back to you. I actually don't have that answer. I think I know who it is, but I want to make 100% clear.
Bob Bauer is one, potentially Dana Remus, James Garland, Robert Lenhart. Are
Look,
they the ones that have been
so
contacting the Justice Department?
Look, again, I don't want to, I want to say the right thing from here, so we would have to, I would have to talk to the White House counsel, or you would have to reach out to the White House counsel to talk about who is his personal lawyers.
And to button
Who
this
are?
up, the first set of documents were found in November at the Penn Biden Center here in Washington. But why did it take until yesterday and until this morning, apparently, for whoever it was to inform Robert Lausch that that final document was found? Was that because there were press reports earlier this week?
Again,
And the
there's,
hope was that nobody would find out?
again,
Or was it because...
there is a process, an ongoing process that is occurring.
She's suffering right now. Thank you so much, Mana, for buying me 5 coffees on Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support, Mana.
They reached out to the archives, they reached out to the Department of Justice, and they immediately, rightfully so, reached out to them to let them know what they had discovered. And that is the process. That is what that is what his lawyers did. Again, it's an ongoing process. As you stated in your question, I am limited in what I can say. It is now in the hands of the Department of Justice. They are reviewing this. As you know, the special counsel was announced by the Attorney General, and so I will leave it there.
What was the president trying to say when he referenced his Corvette earlier today? Because it sounded like he was implying that because his garage is a safe place for his car, the documents were safe.
It's true.
If it was safe for the car, it was safe for the documents. Is that what he meant?
Look, I'm going to just leave his statement as is. I think your colleague was having a back and forth with the president. You can read the transcript of what was asked of him and why he responded that way. I'm just not going to get into specifics.
And you talk about we are being transparent. Who's we, and what is the definition of transparent in this case?
Oh, yeah.
Legally, with the archives and the Justice Department, or is it the White House writ large being transparent with the general public?
So number one, and I've said this multiple times already, we take this very seriously. The president takes this very seriously. He was not aware that the records were there. He does not know what is in the documents. Again, classified information, classified documents, he takes very seriously. When they were discovered, and this is the right thing to do, right? His lawyers reached out immediately to the archivists. They reached out to the Department of Justice to let them know that the papers or the documents assisted.
The archivist or the Justice Department? Because the Attorney General this morning said that the attorneys reached out to the archives. It was only later in December, when the second batch was apparently found, that then they were reaching out to the Justice Department.
I will leave it to what the Department of Justice is laying out. What we are saying that we reached out to the archivists, we reached out to the Department of Justice. That is what is the right thing to do in this case.
You did the right. It's like saying you committed a bunch of terrible crimes, but that's okay because you turned yourself in. So we just pay attention to you turned yourself in, not what you did.
To all of you.
Sounds like blue team to me.
First of all, I can't talk about this, right? Because it is the Department of Justice is reviewing it. There is a review happening, Ed, right? You know this. We just heard from the Attorney General. There is a review. I am limited in what I can say to this.
Could Richard Sauber perhaps come here?
I think you should reach out.
I'm gonna end up getting a strike. YouTube's gonna say, hey, you should have had a warning in your description before you showed KJP getting railed like that at the White House.
Reach out to them as you all have been doing, and I will leave it there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Look at her trying to run away. Run away.
They have been.
She's gonna walk.
The last couple of days, they have put out lengthy statements on this. I just read out.
JB turned themselves in after they got caught and then got caught again after that. You're absolutely correct on that.
Because
they want that pat on the back because they did the right thing. Good for you, Karine.
Issues. And so I'm not going to go beyond what the president said, and I'm not going to go beyond what the lawyer said. I have to go around. You've asked me about, you've asked me,
and that there's going to be a limit in transparency, public, non-legal transparency, in what can be shared and said by this White House.
I disagree. I disagree, Ed. There has not been a limit of transparency.
They're losing everyone. They only had silly, foolish people. Now they're losing them. They're losing loyalty.
You on that, Justin?
2 months.
Justin.
Thanks, Corinne. I did want to kind of follow up on what Ed and Phil were asking, which is putting aside the question of whether the president's lawyers acted properly in handing the documents over, there's this lingering question of why there wasn't an acknowledgement of the second set of documents earlier this week. And you said that you're working through a process and going by the book. And what I'm curious is if you're trying to sort of hint at the idea that the Justice Department asked you not to reveal the second set of documents, or you were told in some way not to disclose anything that had...
You were being called out for being a liar today, Corinne.
I am genuinely saying to you, there is an ongoing process that we are going to follow. And
Nobody's falling for it today.
that is why my White House counsel colleagues we refer to them these past couple of days. Now this is in the hands of the Department of Justice, as you all heard from the Attorney General himself.
I think I guess I remain confused. If the Justice Department didn't ask you not to disclose these documents, why on Monday, as this news was coming out, Tuesday, as the president was talking about it, you didn't say, here's everything we know at this point? You know, the first set was found at the Penn Biden Center, the second set was found at his office. We're searching to make sure that there's nothing else.
Because there's an ongoing process, and you heard directly from the Attorney General today, and that is the process. That is how this is going to go. It is not going to come from here, from me at this podium. It is going to come from the Department of Justice, and that is just the process that's happening currently.
I feel slightly bad about chasing Kirby from the room, so I'm going to ask you one thing not about the special counsel, which is...
What? No, now you can't. You can't now ask a question that you could have asked to Kirby.
Well, it wasn't for Kirby.
The Kirby, is that what they call him? Because he sucks?
Raising the prices of the COVID vaccine and said that you take the question as well.
I just cracked myself up. I don't know.
Here, I was going to provide this information to him today. So I don't want anybody to be confused here. As you know, this is incredibly important. So you can go to 90,000 locations and get a Moderna or any COVID-19 shot for free. That is currently what folks can do, and they are our best protection against the XBB 1.5.
Make sure you hooligans are racking those likes up. Let's get this live boosted. We hit 500 today on YouTube. It's been a while. Appreciate you guys being with me. Thank you so much, Hobbit, for the $10 donation over on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support.
Sanders is talking about is future shots and the process of moving forward, moving toward a commercial market for COVID shots. So we share this concern that those shots should be affordable. That is something that we share the concern with Senator Sanders. The price hike here is hard to understand or to justify. Again, we do have those concerns as well, and we believe that shots should be affordable. Go ahead, Tam.
Yeah, a couple of basic geography questions you may not be able to answer, but is the library a room adjacent to the garage?
Again, I don't have any of this information that I can provide. This is under review.
See, they have all these questions because they're the most transparent administration ever.
Not something that I can do from here.
And is the president's Corvette stored in the garage where the documents were found, just for pure fact purposes?
Well, I will basically repeat what the president said. His Corvette is in the garage. I'm not going to go beyond what the president said.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have nothing to add on to that? Was the Corvette actually in the garage?
Would you admit that earlier this week the White House shared incomplete information? I think that when we all heard Merrick Garland say that these documents at the residence were found on December 20th, that they were notified, that was pretty surprising to all of us based on the statements that you and the president and the counsel's office had made.
Well, as I just said, as you saw in our statement, the documents that were found last night, right? They completed the search with documents being found last night. And then this morning, we put out, you heard from the White House counsel, we put out the information on specifically what was found.
But just one document was found last night.
The search was continuing. It was ongoing.
She's never going to be able to handle Peter if she's already stumbling like this.
Complete, and therefore we shared the information with all of you. Again, this is an ongoing process. I would refer you to the Department of Justice on any other specifics or particulars, even on timeline, or any other questions that you have.
You see her look right at Peter and then point across the room. She can't handle it.
Confident. You said that the search has been completed, but is the president confident that there are no additional documents with classified markings that remain in any other additional locations?
Look, I can just refer you to what his team said. The search is complete. He is confident in this process, and I will leave it there. And they've been cooperating very closely with the Department of Justice.
And we've got.
Oh, they've been cooperating. Don't forget, they've been cooperating.
That is correct.
When did the president learn? How did he learn? Was it from the press conference? Did he get a heads up before that?
We learned from the press conference. The president, we were not giving a heads up, and we learned from the press conference.
He was in a funeral at the time. When did somebody tell him?
Right?
Look, he was at a funeral, to your point. Maybe one of his senior advisors may have told him. I actually don't know specifically when he knew, but what I can say to you, we were not giving a heads up. That I can confirm, as you all know already.
And have you had a chance to talk to him since then? Can you give us his reaction?
I have not had a chance to talk to the president about this or his reaction. Okay.
Does the White House feel like House Republicans have a right to conduct an investigation on documents issued? They've, of course, started sending requests and saying they're going to look into this. Does that fall in the realm of sort of legitimate requests from House Republicans right now?
Look, I'm not going to speak to what the House Republicans decide to do. What I can speak to is that we are, the president's lawyers is complying, and they are working on this with the Department of Justice, as they have been. Again, this is something that the president takes very seriously when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents. I'm just not going to go into what the Republicans on the House do.
Thank you so much, Kethika, for continuing the membership program on Twitch for 11 months. You're officially a hooligan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Sees Senator Feinstein as a long-time friend and also a colleague who he deeply respects, and has collaborated on historic pieces of legislation over the years, and such as the last federal ban on assault weapons. So he respects the talented officials in California who are expressing interest in running for her seat, and we are prohibited from here, as you know, about talking about campaigns or elections, not something that I can do from the podium, so it would be inappropriate for me to weigh in with more specifics on any forthcoming Senate race, including the one in California, but clearly he sees her as a longtime friend and colleague. Good.
I'm going to have some shout outs here after the press briefing for everyone that's sent me donations and whatnot.
In the private office at the Penn Biden Center, said that he didn't know what the documents contained or what was in them. Is that the case also with the documents found at his Wilmington residence, that he doesn't know what those documents involve?
Yeah, I already answered the question, and he does not know. He's not aware of that the records were there. I'll come over.
Sorry, could you just clarify a little bit more about when you say that we inform the archives immediately, the Department of Justice immediately, since this happened?
What's the compliance cloth for? What is it for?
It seems to be there's some conflict.
It's just a symbol that you're a scared person. Because you just defeated of what your own belief system tells you about it. You just defeated the whole reason of strapping it onto you. I don't know. What's the storyline anymore? I can't follow along with scared people.
Refer you to the White House counsel to get more specifics. It is an ongoing process, and I would again refer to either the White House counsel or the Department of Justice for that.
Just anyone but her.
Just a couple of outstanding clarifications.
Just getting mad.
Sauber said there were documents in the garage and one document in an adjacent room. Merrick Garland said the DOJ was informed of one additional document this morning. Is that the same document, the additional document and the document found in the adjacent room?
So let me just say, during the review, and this is so that folks know, the lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. No documents were found in the Rehoboth Beach house. Look, I just want to underscore that this is something, again, that the president takes very seriously. It underscores how we executed the search with the DOJ to make sure that they continued cooperating fully with the review. And I think that is what we are trying to be very clear about, is that we have been the president's lawyers has been cooperating fully. I'm not going to get into the specifics.
They cooperated. Just resolve them of all responsibility because they cooperated. They're doing the right thing.
Department of Justice, because they are actually reviewing.
Over and over again.
To go back to something we were trying to pin down yesterday, can you tell us today, when did the president
Look at Peter, laser focused.
batch of documents, and then the second batch? Our reporting says he was told on November 2nd. Is that true?
So what I can say to you is that the president has been kept informed by his counsel throughout this process. I don't have a specific date, but I can tell you that the president was kept informed throughout. Don't have a timeline to share for you right now. Again, this is under ongoing review, and so want to be careful and prudent on what I share here at the podium.
Tell us when this search started and why they were searching in the first place. Was the president concerned that there may be classified documents? Did someone tip them off? What sparked this?
Again, I'm just not going to go into details from here. I'm not going to go into specifics.
What's up, Relic? I have not seen that video or a series of videos.
It's ongoing. I would refer you to Department of Justice.
Yes, Kevin, the weather works.
The president said he takes classified documents very seriously. If that's the case, why were these classified documents being stored in his garage?
Look, again, and not just me, he has said this. You have heard the president say this twice already, and he's said this before. Classified documents and information, he takes that very seriously.
Robert, I'm loving the roast. I can almost smell her hair burning. Flame broiled, I can't help it. I can't help it.
What he thinks or how he feels about what is currently happening. What I can say for sure when it comes to this specific issue about
What's up, Boston Patriot? Thanks for being here.
he takes that very seriously. He did not know, right? He did not know the records were there. He was surprised.
So who put them there?
Were there. So let's be very clear. That is something that the president shared with all of you on the world stage and also recently today. And so what occurred was, as I've said multiple times before, is when his team identified that these records existed, they handed them over to the archivist and also the Department of Justice.
Just one more, Karina. Sure. Do you acknowledge that the fact that the White House...
Look at Peter getting ready.
Despite the fact that you've known about it for months, undercuts the president's promise of being transparent with the American people?
But here's the thing: they were transparent. There was transparency in doing what you're supposed to do when these items were discovered.
Not with the American people.
Look, I am here standing in front of you answering these questions. Right?
No, you're not.
Took 2 questions this week on this.
Is that more good work? Is that a yay or a nay?
Multiple statements on this. And so, again, this is an ongoing process. We want to respect the process. And we have laid out very clearly what occurred. Again, don't want to get ahead of this. The Department of Justice, you all can will get your questions answered from them during this time. And so I would just refer you to the Department of Justice. And now, as you all know, there's a special counsel dealing with this.
Thank you, Karine. Another one on GarageGate. What is the White House trying to hide?
Nothing.
Look at everyone's face when he said garage gate.
A statement to read on Tuesday that was incomplete at best, misleading at worst. Who?
So I have read out the president's statement. I have read it out yesterday and what he said. He said
she's so mad.
He respects or he takes classified information and documents very seriously. That's what he said. He said that he did not know that the records were there. He does not know what's in them. He said that. You heard from him directly on this. And his team has been cooperating fully. And not only that, again.
So mad. The sass. All the sass.
Shortly after. So we have laid out laid out what has occurred here. You've heard from the White House counsel. I just read the statement from his lawyer. And again, you know, we take this very seriously, and the president does.
Yes, you take it seriously, and you did the right thing.
Of visitors to the Wilmington House.
You know, Peter, you've asked this question, or your colleagues have asked this question before. Let's not forget what we did here in this White House. We instituted something that the last administration got rid of, which is putting out the White House, making sure that there was a White House log, extensive White House log, so the American people got to see.
House where there is potentially unsecured, classified material.
Again, I am telling you, we did something that the last administration got rid of, which is instituting the White House logs. Did you ask the last administration why they got rid of the White House logs?
If he did, oh, she's so mad.
Fox did? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, now she's dissing Fox. Real professional. Real professional.
Ask a question that was not related to this. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. I appreciate it. I know I'm a little behind the news cycle here, but I want to go back to yesterday's op-ed from the president on big tech regulation. In Washington State, we've got the chairs of both Senate and House Commerce Committees, and
what a sissy.
Rogers put out a statement saying, essentially, great, let's do it. Let's put forward this bill that passed her committee almost unanimously last Congress, the Data Privacy Protection Act. I just want to know if the president supports and the White House supports that bill.
So the president has long called for
Garrett, looks like Peter's been watching the live. Something like that. We're going to have to recruit Peter.
Of his administration. We are
He's going to show up with a hooligan shirt.
Cooperation continue on this important issue, on this critical issue. As the president said in his Wall Street Journal op-ed, as you mentioned, as you were referring to the op-ed that came out recently, Democrats and Republicans need to come together to pass serious federal protections for Americans' privacy, including the strongest possible protections for minors. That means clear limits on how companies can collect, use, and share highly personal data. We welcome, to your question, we welcome the partnership.
She's sitting there trying to act like that interaction didn't just happen. Like Peter's not front row staring her right in the face.
A bipartisan product to the president's desk that protects our privacy and also protects the privacy of our children.
She's going to cry after work today.
And again, we'll continue to call for this.
The key point on that has been specifically the pushback from California lawmakers worried about preempting state laws like California's. Does the president believe that it's important to have a strong, like a national standard for data privacy, even if it's weaker than individual state laws?
So look, I don't have any news to make about specifics of the pieces. That's what's the specific pieces of the legislation. I'll just say this: we look forward to working with both parties and both houses to get privacy and other tech legislation done. We think again it's important for the protection of the protection of privacy is important for Americans across the country, but also let's not forget our children.
Karine? Was the Corvette searched, Karine?
Thank you, Karine. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Thank you, Karine. I have a couple.
Was the Corvette searched?
You have said repeatedly that the president's lawyers did the right thing, but you also said earlier during the briefing of the president's lawyers immediately reaching out to the National Archives that, quote, they were not compelled to do it. They did it voluntarily. Is it the position of the White House that legally the president could have just held on to these?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they did the right thing, period. I wouldn't read into it. I'm saying that they did the right.
So what would be the wrong thing then? Thank you so much, Red, for that $10 donation on Rumble. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Red.
And reach out to the Department of Justice. So they, and outside of that, they have been cooperating very closely with the Department of Justice. It is and rightfully so, they did this.
But I guess I'm just a little confused and I want to move on. But what did you mean when you said that they, were not compelled to do it?
They did it. They did it. They did the right thing. That's it. I wouldn't go down into a rabbit hole on this. They did the right thing by reaching out to the.
So then say you misspoke then.
Know how many stops these classified documents made before they ended up in his home in Delaware or in the Biden pen office. For instance, can you rule out that there was a third stop between a secure location and the garage?
Again, I would refer you to Department of Justice.
And then there was a question that was asked about the visitor logs with regards to folks who have come in and out of the president's home in Delaware. does
Yes, pick up where Peter left off.
the garage and the Biden-Penn office, just how many people could have gotten their hands on this? Or, are we to assume that the White House doesn't have an estimate that they
There's
don't
an
know?
ongoing review on this, and I would refer you to the Department of
Good press briefing today.
Just finally, the president has said that his lawyers have advised him not to ask what was in these classified documents. I don't understand the purpose of that. He's the president of the United States. He has access
Because
to all
we're trying to
classified
do this by the book. We're trying to do this in the appropriate way. And so that's what I would say to you. His team has been complying, right, cooperating with the Department of Justice, and I will leave it there. I'm not going to go beyond.
The book says that he can't look at this. What would compel him or push him in that direction? Because you've said it repeatedly. What, I guess, as he tries to do this by the book, as he tries to do the right thing, what are his lawyers looking at that says, yeah, don't look at this classified information that was found?
Again, there's a process here. The process is that when the lawyers found that these documents existed, they reached out to the archive and also the Department of Justice. That is the process, and they have been cooperating closely, working closely with the Department of Justice. And now, as you've heard, the Attorney General made a statement today, and so I would refer you to them. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Run, run, run.
In the last 6 months, the FBI has had to visit the private home, of a current and a former president to collect classified material. Does the federal government have a records retention problem that needs to be addressed?
Look, I'm not going to get into the politics of this or the specifics of this. All I can say is the president has been very clear on this. He takes this very seriously. Again, he was surprised that the records were there, that the documents were there. He does not know what's in them. His team did the right thing, right, which is as the moment that they realized the documents were there, they reached out to the archive and they reached out to the DOJ. I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
My goodness. Karine, you know she's going to cry. She can't get through that door fast enough. Peter By had her taken out. She was feeling feeble. All right, hooligans, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. But first, it's pretty awesome having so many people on YouTube. It's been a while for you guys that are on YouTube right now. People ain't been around in a while. If you haven't figured it out, we do Coffee with Hooligans every day at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Every day but Sunday. So I hope to see more people joining us for Coffee with Hooligans. All right, guys, let's get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. Karine Bao had herself a fit today. We're going to cut so many shorts out of this live. Oh, don't forget, I want you guys to get used to doing this. Go into the comments of my videos when they're not live anymore on YouTube and timestamp things that you guys think should be highlighted. I'll see your timestamps in the comments. I'll get notifications, and I'll come cut shorts out of whatever you guys think is important to view out of the live. Not everyone wants to sit down and watch a 4-hour live and stuff like that. So it is a huge help for you guys to write that timestamp in the comment section, maybe a little description of what you think is worth capturing, and I will go in and do all the rest. And it is a huge help to me, and it's also a way for us to have a back and forth, have some engagement, because we're all in this together. And a lot of people went and did it yesterday after I shined some spotlight on it, like Red, and I appreciate you guys for doing that. So I want to kind of create a habit of doing that. That's a way that we're all doing this together. That's kind of your part besides showing up, because I know there's a lot of people that like to be helper hooligans and go out there and you know, help spread the word, and that's one way to get it done. So I just want to bring that up. I appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. Let's get ready for the pledge. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, hooligans, well, that's that for today. I don't have anything else on the schedule. Anything crazy pops up or anything like that, of course, we will go live. Otherwise, I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for more Coffee with Hooligans at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know what else to say. It's been a busy day, and you guys have been wonderful. I appreciate all of you. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you guys so much for all the support. I almost forgot I have shout outs. Let me catch this really quick because I do appreciate you guys, and I really hate when I get off the live and I didn't remember to do this. So thank you so much, DK Records, for the $1 donation on Cash App. Thank you so much, Speedy Girl, for the $20 donation on Cash App. Thank you so much, Bernito, for the $20 donation on Cash App. I think we have one more. Thank you so much, Edward, for the $1 donation on Cash App. Thank you so much, Greg, for the $5 donation on PayPal. I think we had a Venmo one too, and I can't find it now. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I really appreciate all of you. It does not go unnoticed. Sometimes I get busy and I forget to do the shout outs, but I recognize all of your names. I keep track of all of you, not in a stalker way, in a I love you kind of way. And I appreciate all the support more than I can put into words. So I will see you guys on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.